Welcome to Bible Reader Companion. Our Bible reading this week is Luke chapters 14 through 23, and our memory verse is Luke 18 and verse 27, which in the New King James reads, "But he said, the things which are impossible with men are possible with God." As we continue to look at things that men may not be able to accomplish or strive to accomplish, but that we can do by putting our faith and trust in God, I want to go back again to Luke chapter 14. In Luke chapter 14, Jesus starts this conversation in verse 12. Again, reading from the New King James, Luke 14, and beginning in verse 12. Then he also said to him who invited him, "When you give a dinner or supper, do not ask your friends, your brothers, your relatives, nor rich neighbors, lest they also invite you back and you be repaid. But when you give a feast, invite the poor, the maimed, the lame, the blind, and you will be blessed, because they cannot repay you, for you shall be repaid at the resurrection of the just." Now when one of those who sat at the table with him heard these things, he said to him, "Blessed is he who shall eat bread in the kingdom of God." Then he said to him, "A certain man gave a great supper and invited many, and sent his servant at supper time to say to those who were invited, 'Come, for all things are now ready.' But they all with one accord began to make excuses. The first said to him, 'I have bought a piece of ground, and I must go and see it. I ask you to have me excused.' And another said, 'I have bought 5 yoke of oxen, and I am going to test them. I ask you to have me excused.' Still another said, 'I have married a wife, and therefore I cannot come.' So that servant came and reported these things to his master. The master of the house, being angry, said to his servant, 'Go out quickly into the streets and lanes of the city, and bring in here the poor, and the maimed, and the lame, and the blind.' And the servant said, 'Master, it is done as you commanded, and there is still room.' The master of the servants said, 'Go out into the highways and the hedges, and compel them to come in, that my house may be filled. For I say to you that none of those men who were invited shall taste my supper.'" Jesus teaches in this context, number one, that we need to serve others without the idea of the desire to be repaid. He starts off by saying that when you invite those who can't pay you back. And we need to serve, and the point being we need to serve not with the intent of receiving back that which we have served. Well, I'm going to give somebody something because I expect them to give me something back. We serve because it's what we ought to do. We often should serve those who can't afford to pay us back, who can't afford to return the kindness that we're offering to them. And that's what Jesus is teaching here. And so one man spoke up and said, "Man, it'd be great to be at the table in the kingdom of God." And what Jesus then does is turn it around, because they are again having this expectation of the idea of the blessings of a physical kingdom. And Jesus says, "You still don't get it." He says there was a man and he sent out this invite, and all the people that were invited, when the time came, they were too busy. They couldn't come. They had all these excuses about why they couldn't come. And so the man who created the supper invited all those, the very ones that Jesus talked about, the lame and the maimed and the blind, all of those that couldn't pay back the gift that was being offered of this meal. And the servant said, "There's still room." And the master said, "Just bring as many as you can." And here was the point of this. The point of this is that God invites all to come. You know, in this particular case, he's speaking to the Pharisees. God invited the Jews, and many of the Jews said, "Look, we don't want this. This is not the message we're looking for." And they rejected what God had to offer. They rejected his son. They rejected the blessings that came and were associated with the spiritual kingdom of God that he offered. And what God offered was something that can't be repaid. That is salvation. He invites all to come to that feast, all to come to that supper, not because they can pay back, not because they can reimburse or make good on what God has given them, because God desires for all men to be saved. How is that possible? With men, it's not possible. Men can never repay the debt of sin, the debt that is owed for transgressing God's law. But with God, we can be saved, because God offers it to us freely. And his son came to serve mankind, not so that he could be repaid, but so that man could be saved. Let us remember, but he said, the things which are impossible with men are possible with God. Thank you for thinking on these things, and we hope you'll join us again tomorrow.
Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook for more content like this.